Hi guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, we're going to be learning Georgia on My Mind. So first off, I gotta give major props to Evan for not only a beautiful arrangement, but also an absolutely beautiful performance. And that's what I want to start off this lesson talking about is the way we perform this song. So let's jump into that. I want you to think back to all of the times that you've heard this song being performed, either as an instrumental, like our version, or as a vocal tune. Now, this is a song that lends itself to being performed with a lot of emotion and a lot of feeling. And when we listen to a song that's being performed like that, we listen from the heart as opposed to the head. So if you have never played this song before, and you've always listened to the music like that, you may not have realized how simple this song actually is. So let's pull up the parts and let's talk about them real quick. Now, you can see we have an intro, which is 4 bars in length, followed by an A melody and a B melody. Both of those melodies are 8 bars in length. And then we have an outro, which is 4 bars. So together, that gives us 24 bars. That's the bulk, that's the base of this song and this arrangement. Now, if we look at the actual form of this arrangement, you can see that the A melody gets repeated a few times and the B melody gets repeated a couple times. So we have more bars than 24, but once you learn those 24 bars, when you see sections getting repeated, there's only a couple bars that are different each time, just to give a little bit of variation and help the music feel like it's continually flowing. So I wanted to start the lesson with this point because I know that anytime we listen to a 3.5-minute performance, it can come across as a bit daunting. And I want you to know that this song isn't as daunting as it appears on face value. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this lesson. So in this video, which is the part 1 lesson, we're going to be learning the first half of this tune. If you want to watch the part 2 lesson and learn the second half of the song, you can do so by clicking this link or going to the site rockclass101.com and doing a search for Georgia on My Mind. Now, also on that page is the on-screen tab viewer and the tabs that you can print off as a PDF format. But let's talk about that on-screen tab viewer real quick. Now, this is a really cool feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a really great asset in learning this song that much easier. All right, guys, so we're going to kick off this lesson with the intro. So remember, it's only 4 bars in length. Now, the thing that's interesting is that the intro is played with a straight 8th note fill. When we jump into the next section of the song, which is that A melody, it's going to switch into a swung 8th note fill. So we'll touch on that when we get there in just a little bit. But here's what I'll do. I'll play just the first part, and then we're going to break it down and learn it. So it sounds a little bit like this. Okay, so that's what our first measure sounds like. So let's talk really quick about our right hand approach for finger picking before we learn it. So this is a song that works really great for a 3-finger approach. So that means your thumb gets string 4 and string 3, index finger would get string 2, and middle finger would get string 1. So that approach works really well throughout this tune. Now, the song starts out with the basic G chord. It's the chord that we all know and love. So go ahead and make the G chord with one change. Take that middle finger and lift it up. So you're going to start this song out with a strum and then a hammer on to the 2nd fret of string 1. So give me a strum and then a hammer on to 2nd fret of string 1. Now at this point, you're going to keep all 3 fingers planted, so don't lift up from that G chord. Pluck the 3rd string, and then I want you to reach with the pinky to 5 on string 1, and pluck 1 and 2. Lift the pinky up, and then play string 1 again. Remember, these fingers are held down, so you're plucking the 2nd fret. So together you have, okay, and you can see that rhythm, da 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 da, 1E and 2 and, okay, so get that rhythm stuck in your head. Remember, straight 8th notes. And let's give it a shot together. 3, 4. Nice. Going on to our second half, it's going to sound like this. First thing, you can hear it's the same rhythm. So we're starting out with a D chord. It's a higher voicing of a D. And you can see it's a partial bar chord. So if you're new to partial bar chords or full bar chords, or if you want to recap on these basic chords, then check out this lesson on proper left-hand form, because the secret to getting bar chords and partial bar chords to ring out is it all comes down to having proper form. And it's not only proper form in front of the neck, but it's also what's happening behind the neck. So you can see this U-shaped gap. You can see where my thumb is placed. It's slightly above the middle of the neck. So if you're new to studying proper left-hand form, check out that lesson. I'll also link it in the description box below. It'll set you up for success with learning these chords and getting them to ring perfectly. All right, so let's go ahead and make the D chord. So to do this, we're going to take the index, lay it flat on the 5th fret, strings 1 and 2, and then the middle finger goes on the 6th fret of string 3. So we're going to do the same approach as the G, where we strum, but this time from 3 down, and then we're going to hammer on with the ring finger onto the 7th fret of string 1. So give me a strum, and then a hammer on to string 1. Keep that ring finger planted for right now. We're going to pluck string 3, then lift the ring finger up, pluck 1 and 2. So we want to keep it planted for the first part, and then lift up, because you can hear how it adds sustain. Right? So you don't lift up right after the hammer on, but lift up after you pluck string 3. So again, we have strum, hammer, string 3, then we lift up, pluck 1 and 2, which is the 5th fret barred, and then take the ring finger, put it onto the 7th fret of string 2, and play that note. So together you have, remember, same rhythm, 3 and 4 and. Okay, let's try that starting on beat 3. 1, 2. Nice. If we backtrack that entire first bar, 3, 4. Beautiful. Now going into our second measure sounds like this. Okay, so that's what our second measure sounds like. And you can hear I put a little bit of a retardando in there. So I want you to keep that in mind. We're going to touch on it in a second. So go ahead and start with the basic E minor, just that staircase shape. Lift your index finger up. So we're going to start with a strum of 4 to 2, follow it up with the open G, the open A, and then lift everything up and play the open E. And you can see rhythmically it's all 8th notes. So we have 1 and 2 and. Okay, so let's give that one a shot. 3, 4. Nice. Now our second half plays out a C minor. Sounds like this. Okay, so let's tackle that. So C minor is just going to be the 3rd fret of string 3 with the middle. Ring is underneath it. It's the 3rd fret of string 2. We're going to go ahead and strum 4 to 2, and then hit the open G, pluck 3 and 2, and then open G. So you have 3 and 4 and. And you can add a little bit of vibrato into those fretted notes, and that gives it a cool kind of color to the notes. So if you're new to vibrato, check out this lesson. It teaches you multiple ways to do vibrato to get different sounds. So if we put that second half together, let's give it a shot. 3. Oh, we start on 3. 1, 2. Nice. And the entire measure together. Let's keep it steady and then we'll talk about retardando. 3, 4. Awesome. Now, let's talk about retardando. So, in the beginning of this video lesson, I talked a lot about how this song is usually played with a lot of emotion and feel. And one way we can do that is by using things like retardando, which is tempo alteration. We can also think of this whole intro as being played in what we like to call rubato or free time. Basically, it means that we don't have to strictly adhere to the steady tempo. You don't have to play this first part by going where you heard everything, everything was perfectly like a robot in time, right? We don't have to do that at all for this song. It's actually better to ignore that. And so let me give you an example. If I play the first couple bars, ignoring keeping it steady, you're going to hear my approach is going to be a rush of tempo followed by a big decline. That's how I'm going to start the bar. So check it out. So you can hear la da 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 la da da da. You can even hear differences in volume. I'm starting out with a stronger attack, ba da 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 da, and a faster tempo, da 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 da, and then it gradually slows down and declines. So I'm doing that for the first half, and I'm also doing it, but at a lower level for the second half. So you have ba da 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 da. Right? And it just sounds so emotional and so human-like. And that's really what makes this song just so heartfelt and emotional and so appealing. So I want you to keep those ideas in mind and just take them and make them your own. You don't have to copy my approach. You can go backtrack and listen to Evan's performance, and you can steal ideas from him. You can pull up any version of this song. Most of them are played with that kind of feeling and emotion. You can steal ideas from other versions as well. But let's do this, just in the sense of learning. Let's keep it at a consistent tempo, and let's backtrack and try measure 1 into measure 2. So here we go. 3, 4. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and take a look at measure number 3. So it sounds like this. Cool, so let's break down what's happening. So it starts with a G flat 5. So if you make the basic G chord, get rid of the middle finger and move the index finger down to the first fret of string 3. We're going to start with a strum 4 to 2, and then we're going to play open G, open A, and lift those 2 fingers up, open E. All eighths. So here we go. 3, 4. Nice. Now, going into the second half sounds like this. Okay, so you can see that G flat 5 goes back to the basic G, right? So we're going to go ahead and just strum that top half of that G, 4 to 2, then hit the open G, take that pinky, put it back on 5 on string 1, lift the other 2 fingers up, slide up to 7, and then backtrack with the index finger to the second fret of string 1. So you have 3 and 4 and. Okay, so we have strum 4, slide 2. Let's give it a shot. Starting on 3. 1, 2. Nice. And if we try the entire third measure together, we have 3, 4. Awesome. Going into our fourth measure sounds like this. Okay, so you can see we're actually starting on the G5 for this measure. So first, second, pinky on 5. So I want you to strum all 4. Now there's one thing that's really important that we're going to talk about with this index finger. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to strum all 4, hit string 3 after that. Now, at this point, you're going to lift the pinky up. Here's the thing about the index. Keep it where it's pretty much in position to become a partial bar. So we need it to be a partial bar from string 3 down, because you've got to pluck 1 and 2 after you lift the pinky up. Okay, so we want to start out with on the fingertip, but we want to transition it to the partial bar. So strum 3, partial bar. Okay, so strum 3, partial bar, pluck 1 and 2. After that, pluck string 3, and then 2. So rhythmically, it's 1 and 2 E and. So we have quick hits, right? 1 and 2 E and. Okay, so strum 3, pluck 3, 2. Let's give it a shot. 3, 4. Awesome. One more time. 3 and 4 and. Cool. To finish it up, lift the middle finger up, move the index finger directly up, and just strum from 2 down, full bar chord for the D6. Okay? So that entire measure together. 3, 4. Cool. And backtrack. Let's try 3 into 4. 3, 4. Okay, so you can hear as we play through it that it has that very generic straight feel, right? It has that kind of robotic thing because we're just learning it. But as you work on it now that we have all 4 bars learned, you really want to start to implement some of that tasteful feeling into the playing. So to give you an example again, I'm going to cycle through all 4, and it sounds a little bit like this if we play with a little bit of rubato. And that's a very exaggerated rubato, right? I really paused on some notes and held them out. So it's really up to you on how you want to interpret it. You can do something as pronounced as that, or you can do a lot less, right? It's up to you on how you want to do it. But keep in mind that you should be experimenting with, putting in some different reflections just to get that emotion across. But let's go ahead and do this. Let's try 1 through 4, and we'll keep the timing steady. So here we go. 3 and 4 and. Okay, so that gives us everything for our intro, guys. So let's go ahead and move into the A melody. And on the tab, if you're following along, I'm calling this theme number 1. So as we jump into this next section, this is where we're going to go into that swung 8th note fill. So if you're new to the difference between playing straight versus 8th notes that are swung, then hit pause on this video and check out this lesson because it goes super in-depth into explaining the difference in the fills. Now, with that said, this section has a very pronounced swung fill. So it's very pronounced in the long, short, long, short, long, short, right? So very pronounced in that galloping kind of sound. So as we play through that, play through this music, I want you to keep that in mind. And let's just break it down a little bit more in detail. If we look at measure 1, it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and triplet. So we have eighths for the first 3 fourths and then a triplet to finish it up. So if I play it, listen to just how long, short, pronounced that is. So here's the first measure. Okay, so you can hear it da, 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 right? So get that rhythmic feel stuck in your head. Now, this brings up another point I want to make. You heard that when I was playing it, I was popping. I was kind of creating a little bit of a backbeat on 2 and 4, so beats 2 and 4. And the way I'm doing that is giving it a strum attack for beat 2 and 4. 1 and 2. Right, so I'm just hitting harder on beat 2 and beat 4, and that creates a really cool sound. It makes the piece have a little bit more oomph. Now, if you contrast that and you listen back to how Evan played this first measure, he's going to play really, really soft and delicate. He's going to fingerpick everything. Right? And it has that soft, beautiful feel. So you kind of have 2 options, or I guess you could say 2 approaches as you work through this music. You can do it where it has a little bit more emphasis, where you pop the strings. And to pop the strings, basically, you're just going to strum with the nail of index, middle, or ring. Either one works, or a combination of both. And after you strum, you take the palm of your right hand, you touch the strings just to give it a muted staccato-y sound. You can even lift pressure up, same way you do a regular staccato for a single note. So you can do a combination of that, and that gives it just that pop sound. Or if you prefer a more soft and delicate sound, then you can finger pick throughout all of this. So I'll leave it up to you on which one you want to do going forward. But let's go ahead and look at this measure. Remember, this theme is 8 bars in length, and this is the 5th measure, or the first measure in the theme. So here we go. Sounds like this. Alright, so start with the G chord, and we're going to strum all 4 strings, and then we're going to hit string 3, then we're going to pluck 1 and 2, and at this point, lift the middle finger up, and you're going to do a hammer-on back down to that 2nd fret. So you have 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so remember, gallop that rhythm. Ba, da, 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 da. Okay, so let's give it a shot. 3 and 4 and... Not too hard so far. Take the pinky, stretch to 5. This is the second half. We're going to start on the end of 3. So we're going to hit string 1 by itself. And then we're going to do an 8th note triplet. So if you're new to 8th note triplets, I'll put a lesson that explains it from a rhythmic standpoint in the description box below. But moving forward with the assumption we know what it is, we're going to pluck 1 and 2, and then string 4, and then string 3. So you have triplet. So remember, we're going to start this on the end of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and pluck. Okay, one more time without me counting. 1 and 2 and 3. Nice. So if we put that together, guys, the entire first bar, 3 and 4 and... Nice. So going into the next measure, it's going to sound like this. So you can hear, again, I'm putting my little hits, those little harder hits, but if you want to soften it, then you can take that approach as well. Both sound cool. So this one, start with a B7. So full bar chord, lay flat on the 2nd fret, add the middle to the 3rd fret, string 3. So with this one, we're just going to do a strum of 4 to 2, and then hit string 1, and then I want you to do one more strum, or you can pluck it. Okay, so we have 1 and 2. So very simple rhythm. 1 and 2. Okay, so let's try together. 3 and 4 and 2. Nice. And I think it's cool if you put a little bit of a staccato-y hit on beat too as well, just to kind of give it a little bit of unique character. But if we look at the second half, this is where it gets a little bit harder. So I'll play through the second half, then we'll break it down. The chord shape is a little tricky. Okay, so we have some grace notes that come into use in this second half. So that basically means that we're continuing with the swung galloping thing, but we're making it a little bit more complex by adding a bit of embellishment to it. So we have, in other words, more to do in the same time frame. So let's make this chord first. So we're going to take the middle finger, put it on the 4th fret of string 4. Index is going to go onto the 3rd fret of string 3, but look how it's a partial bar. That's really important for what's coming up. So you want to lay it flat so that it's 3 on string 3, 3 on string 2. After that, take the ring finger, put it on 5 on string 2. So to start it out, what we're going to do is we're going to go 4 to 2, and we'll do a little strum, or you can pluck it, and you're going to hammer on with the pinky to 7. So you have, that's on beat 3. And the end of 3, you're going to lift the pinky up and the ring finger up, and you're going to pluck 3 and 2. Remember, it's partial bar, right? And we're going to hammer on to 5. So keep the middle finger planted that entire time as well. So you start out with 4 to 2, strum, hammer on with the pinky to 7, lift the pinky up, lift the ring finger up, pluck 3 and 2, and hammer on to 5. kind of tricky. And remember, you got to match that to the galloping feel. So you have 3 and. All right, so let's try just that. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, after that, you're going to keep everything planted, play a triplet that starts on 4, 2, and then lift the middle up, and you're going to play the open G. And you can actually lift the fingers up at that point as well, because you're going to need to transition to the E minor. So this second half we have, let's break that one down again. So we're starting out, we have a hammer on with the pinky, 3, then lift up, hammer on with the ring, and then a triplet. Triple, lift up, everything, open G. So hit pause, and that's the one you're probably gonna have to work on. Those grace notes, they make it hard because, again, you've got to fit more into the same time frame. All right, so let's give it a shot. 1 and 2 and 3 and triple it. Very tricky part of the bar. If we tie that 6 measure together, it sounds like this. All right, so let's give it a shot. 3 and 4 and. So that one, I would really encourage you just to hit pause and really, really practice it. Make sure you get these bars down before you move on and tackle the next ones. But if we backtrack at this point, let's try 5 into 6. So here we go. 3 and 4 and. Nice. All right, going on to our next measure. This is measure 7. It's going to be starting out with the E minor chord. So here's what the first half sounds like. Okay, so let's just break that down. So what do you notice? You start out with the index finger up again. So we're going to pluck 3 and 2, and then the open G. And then if you're following with what I'm doing, I'm just going to strum the bottom 2 strings, or you can pluck it if you want the softer approach. But you're going to follow that up with 1st string and then 4th string. So you can see we start without the index finger, but then we revert back to the standard E minor shape. Okay, but getting the rhythm correct is very important. 1 and triple it. So make sure that you tie in that triplet. And triple it. So let's try it together. 3 and 4 and 1 and triple it. Nice. Going into the next half, this one's a little bit tricky. Sounds like this. So a really cool hammer-on lick. Bounces between 2 versions of the G chord. So first off, we're starting out flat on 5, strings 1, 2, and 3. We're going to strum from 4 down, and then we're going to hammer on to 7 on string 1. Again, you're seeing these grace notes. We're fitting more into the same time frame. But you can notice that we're playing all triplet, so we got to keep that in mind. Triplet. So that first hammer on happens on the first of the 3 parts, right? Triplet. So triplet. Okay? So we're going to do strum and hammer, then lift up, play 5 on 1, open G. Okay, so let's just try that. We have triplet. Here we go. 1, 2, go. Awesome. Going to the basic G7. Lift the ring finger up. We keep seeing stuff like this, right? We're going to do a hammer on again. So strum all and hammer on with the ring finger to that 2nd fret. Then play the open A, and then take that ring finger and you're going to put it onto the 3rd fret, string 2. Oops. Get it a little bit cleaner like that. So triplet. So let's try just that part. 1, 2, go. Triplet. Nice. Let's try them together. 1, 2, go. Cool. So if we backtrack, let's try that entire measure together. Here we go. 3 and 4 and. So very, very tricky stuff happening. Definitely, again, want to stress to work on one measure at a time. But here's the cool thing. The next measure is actually very easy. So that's a welcome relief, right? Here's what it sounds like. So very, very simple. So it's going to be playing out of a C5, and then it goes back to that G flat 5 that we saw earlier in the piece. So first off, I want you to play the open C. It's going to last for a beat. And then we make the C5, just ring on the 3rd fret of string 2. We're going to strum 4 to 2, and then hit string 2. At this point, we're going to take that index, drop it down, and then that in turn makes it that G flat 5. We're going to strum 4 to 2 again, and then hit string 2. So if we backtrack, we saw we had O, strum 2, strum 2. Okay, so we have 1, 2, and 3, and... Okay, very easy, right? Next part, keep those 2 fingers intact. You're going to do a triplet to end it, which is going to be O, 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 right? So 4, 1, 4. So if we put that together, guys, we have 1, 2, and 3, and triplet. So let's give it a shot. 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and triplet. Awesome. If we backtrack, let's try measure 7 into measure 8. Sounds a little bit like this. 3, and 4, and... Okay, now if we backtrack again, let's try 5 through 8. 3, and 4, and... So really, really cool, bit tricky, but so cool when you get it down. All right, so let's go on to the next one, which is going to be the 9th measure, and sounds like this. Okay, so let's break that one down. So it's not too hard. This one's actually pretty straightforward. The first part, going to do that open G with the hammer on to the 2nd fret. But again, you can see it's the little grace note, so we're putting that on to beat 1. We're going to literally walk that G5, remember 2, 3, 5 that we tackled before? We're going to walk that straight down and then end on the open G. But the rhythm here is the key. 1 and triplet. So you have 1 and triplet. So you want to nail that. And triplet. So we have hammer, 3, and then finish it up. So let's give that one a shot. 3 and 4 and... Okay, going into the next one, we have an E7, so we're going to lay flat on the 4th fret, strings 1, 2, and 3, add the middle finger to 5 on string 1. We're going to do a grace note to hammer on to 7, so that happens on beat 3. So this measure is actually, this second half of the measure is actually pretty simple. It's literally just that da, da, 3 and 4. Okay, so you're going to start with the E7, hammer on to the 7th fret with the pinky. Then pluck string 3, keep the pinky planted, and you can pluck, or if you're following my approach, you can do a little strum. And give it a staccato sound though, I think that's cool. So, ba, da. Okay, let's give it a shot. Start on 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and pluck. Nice. Backtrack everything for measure 9. 3 and 4 and... Nice. Going on to the next measure, measure number 10. Sounds like this. Okay, so a very cool one. So it starts with that same G7, but if we move it up a whole step, becomes an A7. So if you're new to taking these basic chord shape, moving them up the neck until they become other chords, then check out our caged methods. Really, really awesome tool that you can use. For example, if you're playing in a jam situation, if you're playing with one person or multiple people, say for example everyone's playing a C chord, well you could play it here, and while everyone else is playing the basic C and you're playing up here, you're creating a beautiful harmony, and it makes it more interesting because you're not just copy and pasting what everyone else is doing. All right, so backtrack into the A7. So it's 4, 3, 4, and we're going to be targeting from the 3rd string down for the first part of this measure. So here's what it sounds like. So very simple rhythm, 1 and triple it. So we're going to start with 3 down, you can strum it, then hit string 3, then we can pluck 1 and 2, and then string 2, and then string 4. And remember again, if you're doing my approach, you're just going to accent 2 with a strum, beat 2 with a strum. Maybe not that hard, maybe like that. So that sounds much better. So let's give that one a shot, very simple. 3 and 4 and... Nice. Going into the next chord, it's the Hawaiian D7, so one we all know and love. So make that chord. You can use 1 and 2 if you want. I prefer 2 and 3. That's a lot easier for me. But that's what that second half sounds like. So you're going to start with the strum, then use the pinky to play 3 on string 2, and then we're going to finish up with the triplet. So we have a grace note that's going to slide into 2, so 1 to 2. And then hit 2 again, and then the open G. So you have Hawaiian D7, 3 on 2, slide, hit it again, open G, 1 and triple it. And actually that's beat 3, so 3 and triple it. There we go. But pretty simple, let's give it a shot. 1 and 2 and 3 and triple it. Cool, so that one wasn't too hard of a bar. So backtrack the entire thing. 3 and 4 and... Cool. And if we backtrack 9 into 10, 3 and 4 and... So very cool sounding, a lot easier than the other ones, but unfortunately it gets very tricky in this next measure. So here's what it sounds like, and then we'll break it down. So a very awkward chord shape is coming up, and that's what makes it a little bit difficult. So first off, we start with the B7, just the stock B7 we covered just a little bit ago. Now that's going to be beat 1, and that is going to buy us time. We want to hit it staccato-y to buy us time, I should say that. So 1. So that'll buy us time to move up to this very difficult to form augmented chord. So I think the easiest fingering is what is probably going to be hard for a lot of folks. It's going to be laying flat on 11, string 3 and 2, and your index finger, you can see, is like a partial bar. It's bent at the first joint on 10. Now what's hard about this is that you have to move that middle finger up enough so it doesn't touch string 1, because if it touches string 1, it's going to mute it. So it's a very awkward chord shape that you're going to have to work on. Same rules apply like we talked about with proper left-hand form for partial bars, so check out that lesson in the description box below if you need a recap. But I think that's the easiest way for me. If you watch Evan play it, he's going to finger it like this: first finger, middle, and ring. Now, if you're playing on a tenor ukulele, that's a lot easier to do than a concert like I have, because you have larger frets. So I can't really cram my adult-sized fingers very well into a concert-sized ukulele, so I have to do a workaround. Now, if you don't like that and this doesn't work for you either, then what you can do is you can just go up like an interval, and you can play, instead of what you see on the tablature right there, you can play 1, 3, 1, where it's 10 and 11. So 1, 3, 1, first string, third string. That's an easy alternative workaround. Now another tip that I want to give you is instead of doing the full B7 bar chord, you can do a partial bar chord where you just ignore string 4. And that's going to make it easier to move up. So if you're trying my suggestion for fingering, you can see if I do flat on 2 and middle finger on 3, when I slide up to this next chord shape, I can drop the index finger down a string and I can lay flat with the middle. That's probably the easiest way to transition. It's even easier than this because if you do that, then your index finger has to come down even further, and I find it really hard, to be honest. So I would suggest to simplify this by ignoring string 4 and then going into this shape. Okay, so when you get this shape down, it's a triplet. You're going to go strum, 3, pluck, 1 and 2. So I would suggest 1, triplet. The partial bar, it's going to make it easier. So let's give it a shot. And honestly, just hit pause and work on it first before trying with me. But if you've done that, let's go. 3, 4, 1, triplet. Okay, so probably the hardest transition in this theme. Now, the next half is actually easy. We're going to slide down with the middle finger, and it's going to go to the 8th fret, add the index to 7 on string 2, and ring on 9. So for this one, we're going to go 3 and triplet. So we're starting out with eighths and then going to triplet. So strum, 3, pluck, 3, 1. Okay, so strum, 3, pluck, 1 and 2, 3, 1. So here we go. 1 and 2 and... Okay, you may want to practice that transition, but it's actually pretty simple. So you can see that basically this pivots back up, goes down to that 8th fret, index moves up a string to the 7, and ring comes down to that 9th fret. So we have... Okay, so you can always put that in a time frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, just to practice the muscle memory. You can even do that for the first part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So if we backtrack, let's try that entire measure. 3, 4, 1, triplet, 3, and triplet. Awesome. Last measure for this theme, so it's going to be a tricky chord. We have an A7. We'll talk about a different fingering. Evan does a different fingering. But again, I find this, using the thumb reach around, is easier for me because of the concert scale size, but also because of the transition. So if you think about the last chord we left off, this E chord, if we transition to this A7, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be moving the middle finger down a half step, the ring finger down a whole step, and the index goes to 5 on string 2. After that, all you have to do is reach around and play 6 with the thumb on string 4. And you're going to hug the neck to be able to do that. So you can't do any of that U-shaped gap stuff. You have to hug the neck to be able to do that. If that's too hard, then you can just play it as an open G, and it sounds just as good. So again, this is a transition that you want to practice. You can put it into that time frame. 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's too hard, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can even play the open G as well. Now, Evan does a different fingering. I believe, if I remember right, he does that. But honestly, I have no idea how he moves his fingers so fast to do chord shapes like that. He is like an Olympic athlete. It's too hard for me that I have to rewrite some stuff just for me to be able to do it. But that's what I've got for you guys for that part. So just hit pause and practice that. Now, here's what this last measure sounds like. Okay, so we have da, 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 la, da, da, da. Okay, so that's the entire measure. Now, here's what is happening. Okay, so now we know that this A7, we've got the finger for the A7. If you're doing with the thumb like I am, I'm going to go ahead and hit all 4 strings, then I'm going to hit string 3, and I'm going to pluck again. Now, at this point, I'm just going to move these two fingers down a half step. I'm going to keep my thumb where it is, even though the tab says we're supposed to play 5. That's way too hard to do a move of the thumb. So we're going to just pretend like 4 doesn't exist, and we're just going to pluck strings 3, 2, and 1. So we have 6, 7, 5, 7. Strum, 3, pluck, then move those two a half step down, pluck 3, 2, and 1, or if you want, you can strum it. But cut the note short. Give me a staccato on that hit. Okay? So 1 and 2 and la da da da. Right? That's the rhythm that I want to hear. So let's try 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. Nice. Now at this point, you're going to finish it up with a little slide into a triplet. So take the middle finger and I want you to slide 6 to 7 and then hit it 3 times. And you're going to do that triplet rhythm. And triplet. Right? So we start on the end of 3. 1 and 2 and 3. And triplet. So I'm just going second, first, just a little picado technique. If you're new to picado, then check out our lesson on La Gitanita. It's a flamenco lesson that teaches you the mechanics behind doing it. Now, I want to go back and talk about this A7 to this little D7 flat 9 chord shape. Again, if it's too hard, get rid of the thumb thing. Don't worry about that. You can strum from 4 down for the A7, hit string 3 and pluck, and then you can just move down and pluck strings 3, 2, and 1 to finish it. That's a lot easier to do. And then you can go back into the little 7s for the slide. So let's try this. Let's try that entire measure. You pick the way you want to do. If the reach around is cool, if not, then forget about it. But here we go. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and triplet. Okay. Now let's backtrack. Let's try those last two. So 11 into 12. So here we go. Slow. 3 and 4 and 1. So definitely a tricky measure, but let's try this now. Let's try the last 4. So 9 to 12. So here we go. 3 and 4 and... So very, very cool, but oof, a lot of tricky elements happening in it. When you get that down, what you want to do then is put both parts together, so the entirety of this theme 1 or the A melody sounds like this. Alright, so I think that's where we're going to wrap up our part 1 lesson. So in the part 2 lesson, we're going to be learning the rest of the song, and it's pretty cool because it starts out on theme number 2, which is the same A melody, but it has 3 bars that are completely different. They're really tasteful variations from what we've learned. After that, it jumps into the B melody, and then we'll continue with learning the variations that are in the following A melodies, as well as the outro. So we'll learn the rest of the tune in a shorter way to say it. So if you guys want to watch the part 2 lesson, you can click that link right there, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for Georgia on My Mind. Don't forget, on that page are the tabs that you can print out and keep for your records, as well as that interactive on-screen tab viewer, so that really cool tab player where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars, loop sections, all that fun jazz. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you in the part 2 one. Take care.